Today, everybody. Domestic violence cases are some of the most heinous type of crimes in our community where family is always a core part of how we live as islanders. Sergeant Paul Tapao with GPD is here. And Sarge, we're going to talk about what victims of crimes as well as their families can do, because there's a lot of resources that exist right now on the island where people can go for help, they can seek treatment, but also they can hopefully bring closure to their case, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, when we talk about domestic violence cases, this is usually what we classified as a closed door crime. It's being, you know, pretty much committed within the confines of a home and everything. And it's really hard for us to infiltrate without a victim or a survivor coming forward and reporting. And that's the hardest thing to do, is if you're a victim of domestic violence, is actually coming forward, empowering yourself to come forward. So really, we're asking the community to take note of your family members who you may suspect to be a victim of a domestic violence relationship.
That's kind of the core point right there, because if somebody feels like they may or may not be a victim, but they just don't know, right? They're like, okay, well, I get in spats with my significant other, you know, we yell at each other occasionally, you know, those kind of things happen. But how do they know, like, where is the line drawn in when it becomes a domestic violence case? So
you can really tell from the onset when it becomes power and control. When the aggressor wants to always have that power and control, always controlling the victim's movements, their location, where they're at, who they're meeting with, what they do.
Being very possessive,
yes,
being very jealous.
Yes, that is the definite telltale signs to look for. And that's the precursor for the onslaught of different things to come, because right after you determine that the power and control, now what that does, it triggers an emotional abuse, because of the fact that the aggressor has that power and control over the victim. And where it continues, where the cycle will continue from you know, the psychological approach, so now it becomes aggressive and everything physical in nature. And that's where it becomes very, very dangerous for not just the victim, but all the family members under the care of the victim and the abuser, because it becomes a cycle that we try to identify and we try to break. But it starts with identifying power and control.
Now, of course, everybody's going to say, I know I need to call 911 and I know GPD can help me, but how much do your brothers and sisters in the police department get involved with like those kind of cases? Or again, there are a lot of different agencies, there are nonprofit organizations that are specialized in this kind of thing. Do you guys kind of like transition people to those, or do you work the whole case?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the Guam Police Department will be your first responders out there. Now, the beautiful thing about it is that our patrol officers, through training and everything, is that we have empathetic briefings on how do you handle domestic violence. But we also take it up a notch, because now we have our domestic assault response team. Now, as line with our domestic response officers, we have advocates who work closely with them. But our domestic assault response members, or detectives within that area, they're also advocates. So they know how to provide that triage of care that's needed for the emotional support and everything, while in line bringing justice for the victim by arresting the perpetrator or the aggressor. And we also work closely with nonprofit organizations and non-government organizations such as VARO to assist us in handling triage and care for the victims.
Okay, well, let's get to our crime of the week real quick. And when we come back, I want to talk about like giving victims the ability to actually step forward. So what do we got this week?
This week is a robbery that happened in Machinao, Dededo.
Okay, here's what you can do to help our friends up north.
On Wednesday, September 5th, shortly before 4:30 p.m., officers from the Dededo Precinct Command responded to Machinao, Dededo in reference to a robbery complaint. Now, the preliminary investigation suggests that the victim was traveling on Chalan Chiab, had slowed to execute a turn onto Chalan Margarita. As the victim was making the turn, he noticed a couple walking along the road, in which the man, only described to be local, heavy-set, standing around 5'6", with blonde hair, and was seen wearing a red shirt with gray shorts, began punching the victim's face. The victim was then pulled out from his vehicle as both the male suspect and the female individual, only described as being possibly local, entered the car and drove away. The vehicle was described to be a white Scion TC bearing Guam license plates, Mike Alpha India 9097, that's MAI 9097. Now, the Guam Crime Stoppers and the Guam Police Department is reaching out to the community relative to this case. If anyone has any information about this crime or any other crime, you can call our 24-hour hotline at 477-HELP, that's 4357, or submit a tip online at guam.crimestoppersweb.com. All calls will remain completely confidential, and a cash reward of up to $1,000 could be paid if the information provided leads to an arrest and a grand jury indictment. Your call does make a difference.
All right, Sarge, we appreciate that with the information. We always want to take care of everybody up in Dededo. Now, as I said, what words of wisdom would you pass to people that may feel they're like, I know I'm being victimized, or, I know these things are happening, but I'm afraid to speak up, or I don't know because, at the end of the day, GPD can come here and they can say, you need to stop this, but I'm still going to come home to this household, and now the person's going to have, even more aggression, and, they're going to be really, really upset.
And then that's the whole thing behind Power and Control, is that now we want to do is what we want to really instill in the victims is that we want to empower them to take that stand. It's a big leap of faith and everything, but we're asking family members from the outside to support in. If you see signs of telltale signs, start a dialogue, start a communication, and ask them, is everything okay? Mm-hmm. You may get some resentment and everything because nobody really likes to pry into people's lives, but it really starts with you opening that intimate dialogue between you and a family member. So start with establishing a dialogue. Start with empowering yourself about what you can do, because really you want to break that cycle, and it starts with the victim empowering themselves into understanding that there's help out there, there's resources, there's family members that can provide that triage of care in dealing with domestic violence.
And you said GPD does have a special team that is, highly equipped to handle this. If people would like to call and just say, I would like to come forward or anything like that, how can they get in touch with you?
Give us a call. Call our dispatchers and we can connect you to the right people. Start by calling 472-8911. Talk to our dispatchers, ask them who you can speak to and stuff. Ask them you want to speak to the domestic assault response team, and they can lead you the way. But it starts with you empowering yourself, wanting to bring changes to that relationship.
All right, Sarge, thanks so much for taking care of everybody on Guam.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Please stay tuned, everyone. We're back after this.